Hello, Ohio. Welcome once again to the Retirement Blueprint Show with retirement specialist Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth. I'm your host, Spike Spengel. Every single week, Tim tries to address retirement planning strategies and solutions. Mr. Tim Lofton, what's on your mind this week?
Well, I thought we would talk about something that's super exciting, mistakes.
Yeah,
okay. Right?
All right. Well, because it's something that you see all of the time in the offices, and you can help people avoid them.
And this isn't to give people a hard time, right? This is talking about misconceptions, things that maybe they thought were true or somebody told them that were true, that maybe they haven't really thought through. So this isn't a making people feel bad episode. Yeah. This is about talking through
illuminating some of the mistakes that people make.
It might change perspective.
Help them be aware.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, I think one of the first ones that I'd like to address for folks, we hear this all the time, please don't change the channel. Stay here with us. There's so many people out there just like yourselves who might feel like you've started too late. That you don't have, you've been taking care of the kids, you've been helping them go through college, maybe there's a wedding down the road, you want to help them pay off their debts, or maybe even get into the first house, or maybe your job situation or even your health changed, and you feel that you're behind the 8 ball. Procrastination, again, it's not their fault. Can we make up that time?
You can. You know, we talk about all the time that you have 3 things that you can work with in retirement. You have how long you work, how much you save, and how much you spend. I mean, that's it. Those are the 3 variables that we have to work with. And, you know, sometimes because of procrastination, we may have to work a little bit longer, or we can spend a little bit less, or it's also possible for us to save a little bit more. But that combination is really what we have to work with when we think about retirement and saving for retirement. And so it's up to the individual, you know, and this is part of us doing that planning process, is to be able to give them those numbers, to be able to sit down and say, hey, you know, if you save this much more, you'll get back on track. Or if you don't want to do that, you could work an extra couple years. That'll get you back on track. Or you could spend a little bit less. The only thing I don't like about spending less in retirement or spending less while I'm working is I don't want to give up the richness of my life. But that's really a decision that the client has to make.
But there are some hard choices today as well. Things like purchasing a new automobile, even a used automobile a couple of years old. Everything is just so much more expensive.
They're getting $100,000 for a nice high-end pickup truck today.
Yeah,
$100,000. It's not a Porsche.
I rode my bike to the studio today.
Right.
It was cold out there. No.
Well, those are expensive too.
Yeah,
especially if they're carbon fiber, right?
Everything's expensive. So that is hard. And so you might not even be ready for retirement, but is it too early to sit down with a retirement planner? Especially if you're feeling alone, like you're behind on your savings. This is where you can come up with the plan, and you don't even have to spend anything for the cost of the plan with you.
Right, and that's the whole idea here is, you know, if you have the opportunity to sit down with somebody that specializes in retirement planning, and it's complimentary, what do you have to lose?
Right.
You know, take the time, spend an hour, let us get to know you, and tell us where it is that you're trying to get to, show us what you have, and we will map out that process and show you what your options are.
Right. And part of it is that we have to do some of the hard work ourselves. I think one of the second things that we've got on our list here of reasons why we don't have enough money in retirement is not hitting that savings rate. My problem with it is this, is that with those retirement plans at work, we're given a certain percentage where we get a match from an employer.
Right.
And I think a lot of Americans stop right there.
That's very common. And honestly, they've kind of been told, you know, always get the maximum match that your company offers. Well, some companies don't have any match. So do you not save at all? And then on the flip side of that, you know, our tax planning guy in our office would be like, if everything's going in to pre-tax, you could end up with a tax problem. So there's so many questions that I think people have in their minds as they think through what is the right thing to do, because it seems like every place I turn, I get a different answer. And listen, if you're at home right now and you're watching our show, and you have these questions, more questions than answers, this is your opportunity right now, today. You can pick up the phone, give us a call, 855-684-3485. We will help give you answers to your questions. We'll also tell you what questions to ask in case you haven't thought of them.
Right. Now, for those who are feeling comfortable with their earnings at home, and maybe now, today, I mean, a lot of Americans have two spouses working.
Right.
Maybe the kids are out at college or they've moved out on their own, and so we've got a good living. There's a couple of ways as well that we can catch up. I'm surprised. We talk about this all the time. I am surprised at how many people aren't aware of catch-up provisions, especially in our retirement accounts.
The greatest thing about turning 50.
The greatest thing, absolutely.
It may be the only thing about turning 50.
And are there many people who come in who are actually surprised or just unaware of what the catch-up provisions are?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like for the most part, a lot of people are aware. I do think there's a lot of complaints that I have about 401ks and companies not educating their employees, but that seems to be one that people seem to be, if they're not doing it, they've heard of it. There's less people than I would say don't know about it.
Okay.
You know, so I think that it is well known. The question is, are they doing it?
Right, right.
You know.
And now we're also seeing, because you talked about possibly having the tax problem down the road, so we're not trying to discourage anybody from using your work plans. They're not always incredibly efficient or offer a lot of variety in there, but definitely it's one of the tools you have. We want you to use it as much as possible. But now we're also seeing the possibility inside those work plans of not turning ourselves into a tax bomb by having Roth 401ks. Are you a fan?
I am. I love the idea of creating different potential streams of income in retirement that have different tax associated with them. And the advantage of that Roth 401k contribution is that the money comes out tax-free. And so if I'm trying to find a way to get a certain amount of income out and I can lessen the amount that's taxable, that's a great tool to have, or a great choice to have. And I'll give you a perfect example of this, Spike. You know, as we're looking at taxes increasing, we've had several clients that have come in that are looking towards that Roth IRA as a potential hedge, you know, where they were taking a full withdrawal for their income out of an IRA. As taxes creep up, they're looking at that Roth to offset that, to reduce that taxable income for them. And it's great that they have that tool in the toolbox.
Right, right. Tim, we've got to take a very short break right now. We're going to continue to talk about retirement planning mistakes, unfortunately, that we see. But the reason we're talking about them is hopefully to help you avoid them. If you'd like to get your own complimentary retirement blueprint, just call the phone number you see right here. You can get started with Tim and the team at Axim Planning and Wealth, but you've got to reach out to us. 855-684-3485. More with Tim Lofton and the Retirement Blueprint Show when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton. Hey, Tim, the commercial, they were just talking about procrastination. It's like they were listening to us.
As if they were listening to us. That's right.
There are so many different mistakes, though, and we don't blame you for the mistakes you make when it comes to retirement planning. But today we've got the top 10 retirement planning mistakes, and usually things that we overlook. One of them, really, really big, inflation. Now, the good news is that inflation has been talked about so much over the last 12 or 14 months. I don't think anybody's ignoring it anymore.
No. You would really have to be off the grid to not know that
totes off the grid here, absolutely. But I'm really glad in a way that people are talking about it. But I mean, how do you factor in 7, 8, 9% inflation into a retirement plan?
Well, long term, I don't think you do. Long term, that's not a realistic number. We look at a historical average of around 3% is kind of what is when we look at long periods in history. And, we went through several years there where there was almost no inflation at all. And so as we are catching up and getting that average back in that 3% range, it's brought an attention that I think is honestly a really good thing. Like, I don't like doing that, but when my mom calls me and she's like, honey, my money's not going as far as it used to.
Yeah.
There's a
it's real.
It's real. And it's great because it brings to the attention that part of the planning needs to be done.
Right.
I think of, I had a client that came to us fairly late in the process. And, as we sat down with them and we were going through, they had a pretty decent little pension and a Social Security that was going to be coming in. And, we're looking at the amount of money that they were going to need in addition to that they were going to take from the money that they had saved. And, one of the things that they said to me when they first sat down is, we met with somebody a long time ago. They told us that we needed to save $500,000 and that would give us an extra $20,000 in retirement. And that's exactly what we needed. Here's the problem. That $20,000 that they needed was based on a number 20 years ago. And they never made the adjustment, and the advisor never made the adjustment. And so
it's one small number in the sheet. It's a number that's often been overlooked over the last couple of years. Again, that's why I say I'm glad at least we're talking about it.
Right.
But even at 2 or 3%, if you don't put that small inflation number in there,
you're 50% off.
Yeah.
Over that 20 years, you're 50% off your numbers. So they really didn't need $20,000 in retirement. They really were going to need $40,000. It was $20,000 at the time they did the planning 20 years ago, but $40,000 was where they needed to end up, which was double the amount of money that they had saved.
This brings me back to my exam days. The future value of money, time value of money, those special calculators. So you have tools that help you put together these kinds of projections,
yes.
right?
And you have to. As we look out at retirement planning and the income side of that, we have to factor in things like taxes, like inflation, and make sure that we're making those future adjustments to get the net number that people are going to need, not the gross.
Right. And so then, as you have these projections and things change, whether we continue to work or we get cost of living adjustments on the Social Security.
Which was nice.
Yeah, that was nice, but that was along with the inflation, which was well over 8%. It was like getting a frying pan to the head. So the cost of living adjustment, good, but it came 6 or 8 months after you already spent money that was 9% higher.
Right.
So in retirement, that's just part of it, not taking into account inflation. So now that we've made you all aware of inflation, you're definitely going to put that into your projections. There's another factor out there, and I know that folks are looking forward to their Social Security. Is there a percentage number that you're comfortable with in the income strategy with Social Security being part of it? For you, would you be comfortable in a zone like 25% of your income or 30 or 35? Our fear is the over-reliance on Social Security as your income stream in retirement.
Right, and remember that Social Security was never designed as a pension. That was not its purpose. In fact, when Social Security first came out, you got it at 65. Life expectancy was 64. kind of worked itself out. You know, fast forward to today and how much longevity has increased and people are just simply living longer. That's one of the things that's put us into the hole with Social Security. Social Security makes up whatever it makes up of the need. Defining the need is really, I think, the most important part of that. Whatever percentage that is, it is. The question is, if that's your only source, that's where that over-reliance becomes an issue.
And I guess it does depend on what your monthly expenditure is, but I think the average on Social Security, you know, depending on whether you're taking somewhere around $1,800, $1,900 a month, and then you add in the spouse's one. So it really depends on what your monthly expenses are, but just getting to retirement without having some extra saving. Now, on the other hand, can we leverage some of our other savings, even if we're close? So let's say we have $200,000 or $300,000 in savings. That's probably not going to be adequate enough to stay retired just by dividing that out.
Right.
But can we maybe turn on the Social Security and start to leverage some of our other savings?
Well, there's two things there. You know, one is that I can turn on my Social Security early and leverage my savings. The other piece of it is I can leverage my savings and turn on Social Security later. And
okay, so which one?
Well, it depends on the individual, right? And so, you know, I think back, I've got a client and there's about 11 years difference in their ages, okay? And so in this particular instance, the husband was the older person. He was going to have the larger Social Security. And so we looked at, for him, turning on his Social Security at age 70 for the sole purpose, or one of the main focuses, was to give his spouse, who is younger than him, a longer runway with a larger income number.
Right.
Now, they were able to do that because of other things within their plan. He was also able to turn on Social Security from his ex-wife because he was married more than 10 years. So he was able to get part of her Social Security. And so there's a lot of strategies out there where we can think through these. So unfortunately, there's not a one-size-fits-all of you should definitely take it at 62 or definitely wait till 67 or always wait till age 70 because every person's different.
And that's, I think, the answers that people are looking for. They're going to the internet, they're asking their friends or even their family ahead of them who have taken Social Security and say, what worked for you? And what necessarily worked for somebody else isn't necessarily going to work in your situation. That's a very unique situation. We're not saying that divorce is a retirement strategy, but I can see how that actually makes sense. So
we have several clients, and almost none of them knew about the fact that they qualified for that ex-spouse's Social Security.
Right.
So, I mean, it made us look really good, right? When we were like, hey, this is like found money for them. But it is you know, listen, if you're at home right now and you're getting ready to claim Social Security and you don't know what to do and you don't know what the best options are, give us a call. Let us make that decision with you. Let us map out what your options are to make sure you get the best one. You only get to make this decision one time. Don't make the wrong choice.
Please call the phone number right here, especially if you haven't turned on that Social Security yet. Whether it's us, whether it's someone like us, just make sure that you talk to somebody outside the Social Security office, a retirement planning specialist especially, to make sure that you're turning on your Social Security in an optimum time to work with the rest of your investments as well. We want to make sure that you don't run out of money in retirement. Call the phone number you see right here so you can get started on your own complimentary retirement blueprint. 855-684-3485. More with Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth right after this.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth. I'm your host, Spike Spengel. We're talking about some of the retirement planning mistakes that you see all of the time in the offices, and we're trying to help you make sure that you don't fall victim to these mistakes as well. Okay, we move on to investments and having the correct investment choices. One of the things on our list here of planning mistakes is having poor investments. Okay, well, I still have all of my Blockbuster stock. I don't know about you folks, but look,
I miss Blockbuster.
Oh, I really know.
It was so much
fun. Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, that's right. It was so much fun.
The kids in the booth, they have no idea what we're talking about right now. But Blockbuster Video, it's hard to know where the trends are going. And Tim, boy, even the way that we compiled our shows just over the last few weeks, here, TV, radio, we are using tools like AI and so forth. The world is changing quickly. So when it comes to investments, individual stocks, is that still a place to stay for retirees trying to guess where the trend is going to go next?
Well, you know, it's interesting because when you look out at the landscape today, especially in the retirement planning world, and when I say retirement planning, I'm talking 401ks and corporate plans, that type of thing. It's all mutual funds. I mean, for the most part, that's where that industry lives. And, you know, I think we actually talked about on the radio show a couple weeks ago, you know, the idea, it was actually a suggestion to go from stocks to mutual funds. And, you know, I had a little bit of a pushback there because our wealth management team disagrees with that. You know, they talk about, you know, some of the facts that we've seen in these studies that, you know, 90% of mutual fund managers don't beat the S&P 500 on a 3-year average. 90%.
Right. And there's all kinds of studies out there on the internet. You can look at this independent research on your own. Somebody, a fund manager, they'll show you what they did either over a 1-year period or over a 5-year period. Right. You could pick those marks. And I could take a regular American investor, show them how their investments did from 2009 to, you know, the beginning of 2021, and they would look like genius investors, right? So it's kind of picking those point to points. But then you're saying, as you espouse to, that picking some individual stocks with the proper background, not a completely terrible idea, even in retirement.
I definitely would say that is the case because I listen to our wealth management team every day talk about that exact thing. And they're a big fan of individual stocks and ETFs versus mutual funds, and they have a whole litany of reasons why. And I guess that's, you know, if you're watching the show today and you're trying to decide which is better, and you're trying to figure out, you know, I've read mutual funds are good, I've read mutual funds are bad, I've heard that if I'm in retirement, I should own stocks. If these are the types of questions that are on your mind, give us a call. Let us give you some perspective. Let us share and understand where it is that you're trying to get to and help guide you in that direction.
All right, I'm going to give you even one more. From what I understand, mutual fund industry as compared to the ETF, exchange traded fund, is that you could have essentially the same composite of put together of stocks and funds and companies inside an ETF. Right. And the same thing, you know, an S&P 500 mutual fund, an S&P 500 ETF. Here's the thing. From what I understand, ETFs are 0.95% less expensive.
They are less expensive. However, that can be dangerous as well when we start letting cost dictate our choices. Okay. And so we're paying less money to get the wrong thing. And so we want to make sure that people own the right investments. And that's really where sitting down, having a plan, understanding things like risk tolerance, understanding the different investments, because there's a lot of things that people don't even know. I mean, for example, with the mutual fund, by definition, by prospectus, they have to be 97% plus invested in good times and bad. Well, is that in the best interest of people when, you know, we're looking out and saying now may not be the time to be in this or to be in that, and there's nobody out there that is going to make that change for you.
Right, right. I know what you're talking about. A couple of times when I've let costs drive my decisions, I once went for the cheapest haircut that I could. It was the worst 6 months of my life afterwards. I understand we don't always want to go for the lowest cost, but we do want to evaluate those costs, and that can be confusing. So
well, we want to make sure that there's value in what we're paying for.
In it, right.
Right, and so none of us mind spending a little bit of money if what we're getting in return is greater than what we're spending.
Right. I don't mind going out to dinner as long as I know that I'm going to enjoy the meal that I'm having,
Right.
and we're going to do that. One of the last things is as far as a mistake that happens into retirement, and it's a planning mistake. You talked about just that one couple in the first opening segment there about how they didn't take into account inflation for
Right.
what they were going to need 20 years later. Another one, though, I might say is healthcare costs.
Yes.
You do see these healthcare costs all the time. Medicare isn't going to take care of everything. By the way, you do have to pay for Medicare.
Right.
Where do you fit that into the plan?
Well, there's two components there. One is, the kind of ongoing expense of my cost of Medicare. The other one is long-term care or nursing home stay. And, that is a big potential expense that in some cases could completely wipe out a nest egg if not properly planned for.
Right. Well, Tim, we're going to have to wrap up today's program in a little bit here, but why don't you take everybody through your retirement blueprint? You invented it. You actually created the retirement blueprint. What is it?
We even have a trademark.
You even have
a trademark.
That's right.
So the retirement blueprint is a process. It's not a booklet or something that we mail to you. It is a process that we take people through to make sure that they retire and stay retired. It has a total of 5 components. One is an income plan. We look at the investment plan, tax plan, healthcare long-term care plan, and then the estate plan. Each one of those areas comes with a specialist in our office that looks at each of those areas. This isn't something that, we're putting a plan together and then handing out business cards. These are people in our office. We have estate planning attorneys and tax professionals. We have wealth management team. We also have a planning team. If these are things that you don't have a written plan for, now is your time. It is your opportunity to simply pick up the phone and give us a call at 855-684-3485. You can get your very own retirement blueprint today, complimentary, if you just pick up the phone and give us a call.
Tim, thank you so much for mentioning in that, again, because in that retirement blueprint, we didn't even cover estate planning. I think we'll have to do that on another program as well. Folks, estate planning isn't just if you have $50 million or $100 million. Are you leaving money to anybody? Then you need an estate plan. You need your medical directives. Even if it's just yourself and your spouse, make sure that the state isn't in charge of your estate planning. But for your investment choices, making sure you don't have to just rely on Social Security, having all of these pieces all together in a team that's working for you, just call the phone number right here so you can get started on your own complimentary retirement blueprint. 855-684-3485. For Tim Lofton, I'm Spike Spengel. We'll be back next week.